Welcome to Point to Rise, your podcast that gives you permission to dream big, take messy action, and turn your talent into profit while turning your back on perfection. My name is Suzanne Purcell, high performance and mindset coach, former international ballerina, profitable entrepreneur, and founder of Point to Rise, a movement designed to empower dancers. It is my mission to use my own story as an inspiration for today's generation of dancers. And now sit back, stretch, warm up, or zip your coffee and love learning how much it matters to point at yourself first to rise to all that you are capable of. Christy, my love, good morning. I am so happy to have you on here again. Or, you know what? It's not having you on here. This is like, we're in this together. Let me reframe this. We're in this together. We're co-hosting this episode or this series of the podcast. So just so to fill you in, we already chatted for 28 minutes prior to push recording because, well, let's just say there was a lot to catch up on. How was your week in a nutshell? in a nutshell, girl.
In a nutshell, it's exactly serendipitous to what we're going to talk about today. Just lots of growth and lots of evolution and the bigger vision I have for where I'd like to go and how I'd like to serve people. And the little whispers have gotten pretty loud, especially this week, in a good way. So that's been exciting and kind of allow some dust to start to settle and things start to find some congruency. So I'm happy with that. And I found out my husband's coming home 2 weeks early from his contract. So that's exciting too. I'm excited to see him next weekend. So it was a nice little present.
That is a nice little present. Lucky you. Good.
Well, what about you? What'd your week look like?
Oh gosh. So I was really good all week long in terms of doing what's scary and what doesn't feel comfortable, let's just say it that way. And then on Saturday, the night from Friday to Saturday, like I barely slept because the voices of unworthiness and what the hell are you doing? Pardon me, but they were so loud. I, for the first time, did not silence them, meaning I didn't fight them. I just let them come in and say, hey, so that's great. You're here again. And I understand you will always show up probably in the most inconvenient time. And here I am confronted with the choice to play into you or to say, hey, that's old me. I don't really need this anymore because I know there is so much more for me to discover on the other side, the one where I know that I can do whatever I put my mind to. And that unsettledness of the tucking and pulling is, it has not quite settled yet. Like I'm still in this kind of limbo of not feeling peaceful, let's just say that way. However, we had a gorgeous walk this morning. The sun finally came back to the island here. And the eagles, we have 2 couples here. And for some reason, they started showing up last March when the pandemic hit. And this morning, one of them was sitting on the rocks by the water. Like I could have gone down there and, say, hey, do you want to snuggle? And the other one was up on a lamppost watching over him or her because she was in a very vulnerable position. For some reason, seeing them is like they're my guides, my guidance, my hey, you're okay, everything is fine. And they're such majestic, gorgeous, powerful animals. It brings me so much joy and peace to watch them at the same time. It's like the universe is spreading that big blanket and wraps me in it and says, hey, you're okay. Everything is just fine. You get through this. So that's where my week was. And gosh, just stepping into this next chapter, I realized that For the first time, I'm actually not just jumping into something, but I'm taking the time to build something that is capable of growing with me, meaning that not in a few years I am, this doesn't fit anymore. So really putting in the plans, having the conversations, feeling out, okay, who's going to be a fit, who's not, who has that growth mindset, who wants to collaborate, because I found this is really where I'm thriving, in collaboration. Like, I love having conversations with people, and I love to feed off of other people's energy and give them something in return. So we had like quite a few Clubhouse conversations last week that were really well received. And yeah, I don't want to do this alone anymore. Really, I don't. And there's no reason why I should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the right reasons, though, not because I want to please other people or I want to be seen by others, but because I want to give others the chance to be seen as well. And like really find that happiness by helping others. Like, that is coming in so strong for me that yeah. So
I love it.
look at us talking about money and art today. And I'll get the curve and how we're all putting this together today. So the topic is, you can only grow your business to the extent you're willing to grow personally. And I looked at this quote. It's actually written on a wall here in my living room. So I always remember that if I experience something that is not working in my business, that, hey, that's nobody else's fault. I can't blame anybody else. It's just because I haven't looked there yet, or I haven't gone there yet. This is something that I really need to discover. And when we're drawing the strings towards the arts, I believe that, and particularly ballet, is where it is because it hasn't made the connection yet. It hasn't really understood that in order to grow as a whole, it also means the people in it need to be open to growth and not to hanging on to traditions. And let's explore that. That's I can see you smile, I can see you nod. Please share.
Well, as you were speaking those last few sentences, I was thinking about a previous perspective that I would have about change, and that I didn't like change. Change was scary, and I wanted to just have whatever I knew because I just wanted to feel comfortable. And for me, it was safety. The comfort zone and knowing what to expect was like a safety thing. And I feel like that was a part of the product of my environment of watching a machine that has worked for a number of decades do a specific thing, and it's working for them, and so that's just the way it goes. So generation after generation, from former professional dancers turned teachers and choreographers turned directors, artistic directors, all of the things, like everybody's just we're just using the same cogs on the wheel. And so I felt like I adopted that myself. And now I think very differently. I think without change, or stagnant. And we're meant to be here to grow. And we're meant to be here to develop, because the world around us is developing all the time. So to expect that we don't ourselves do those things, I think we're missing the point of being here, basically. So I have both perspectives of definitely the way I used to think versus really embracing change and not looking at it like it's a scary thing to not.
I believe that, what is that? The only thing that we can count on in life is change, that there's consistent change. And I believe that we as human beings are trying to take control in, the change that we let into our life by, falling back to, gosh, anything that we've learned, or anything that we believe is the way to success or to a successful performance, or however you want to spin it. But it's not where it's at. It never has been there. We just were in a world that wasn't as fast paced and so speedy, right? Where everybody was just basically building their own little huts and their presence, etc. So now especially, it is so important to be in a fluid kind of stage versus the fixed, this is how it's going to be, in order to be relevant in any kind of perspective. And when we're saying that, your business, when we look at companies where they're at and how they're perhaps struggling to put on performances or to be seen or to keep the audience, to, I don't know, pay their dancers. We talked all about the pay scale last week, and I actually, side note, I found out some little bit more that one example that I gave of a high six figure, that's actually a common thing between the entire artistic and administrative staff in a grade ballet company, okay, regardless in what kind of city they're in.
Yeah.
And it is definitely 10 times as much as a core dancer does make in a much shorter span.
Right.
They're contracted for 52 weeks, dancers 38 to 42, sometimes 45, 46 if you're lucky. And then you're not allowed to go anywhere to really perform and to make some extra money. So with that, like letting go of all of these beliefs, that means you have to grow, you have to let them go. However you want to phrase that, whatever hat or jacket fits you, it is just the understanding that change is so overdue. It is not going to hurt you. You're not going to die. You're not going to jeopardize your existence in any, let me rephrase, you're going to shed who you used to be. And you can embrace who you're supposed to become and can become. And that's not only as people, but as an industry, as an art form itself, right? It is so important to embrace that change and to be open to it for the good, the better good of everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. And I love what you literally just said. Is that's been my perspective, and I actually just did a video about that a couple days ago, of the betterment of ourselves and what we bring in a space energetically is the betterment of others, or not. So if we're in a low state and we're grouchy, or we are complaining, or we're whatever, and you're in that environment, that's going to bleed out to your environment. Versus the other way, if you take the time, and we all have to hold ourselves accountable, that be the change that you want to see happen. It has to start with us. And so our energy, in a good way, can also do the same thing and encourage other people to do the same. Because if you come to a situation happier, more at peace, super excited about something, full of energy, that's going to influence people around you. And so the growth, it's up to all of us to take radical responsibility to start with us first, so then it can be reciprocated out.
Oh yeah. Well, we're done for today. Thank you, Christy. No, because it's the truth. Like, if we're not starting, nobody else is going to do that for us.
Yeah.
That is the most important thing. And it starts with actually being true to yourself and your expectation. It starts with understanding where you actually want to go. If I offend somebody, I apologize, but that's on you. I am not judging. I am just basically stating, when I scroll through TikTok And I see people in the dance world debating or making videos whether or not the tights above the unitard or below the unitard stand for being professional or not. This is exactly why you're still taking what is given to you.
Yeah.
Like understanding that harassment or belittlement or I don't know, the twitching on your waist is something that you have to accept in order to be successful in your business. No, like that's your first step.
Yeah.
Look at what you really want to be, who you want to be, what does your dream company look like, and then stand up for it, be present, and work on yourself first, and then start speaking up about what you're learning, what your experiences are, and that will help others to do exactly the same. There's so many people out there, Chrissy, that are so afraid of saying something about their experiences because they don't want to be put in a corner by their company, or they don't want to be replicated or shamed or lose their job because I don't know, the judgment still is so prevalent, even though we have made such progress that is, I was going to say it, if you don't speak up, you're part of the problem.
Well, and for us to have the strength to work on ourselves, that's going to help you work through not being able to just stand in your truth because you're so afraid of judgment or you're so afraid of criticism or other people's opinions. Until I started to work on myself in personal development and learn why I even cared about those things and allowed myself to find ways to either integrate the emotions or release the trauma, find the self-esteem, then I was able to start showing up as myself and just be free to be me, regardless of what anybody else thought about it, because I wasn't so concerned with what was going to come at me. And so regardless if you have another business outside of this or not, your ability to be open to grow yourself is going to open new avenues for you in ways that you never could even imagine right now. And the first step is the fact that you can just figure out who you actually are, not who you are based on what everybody's opinion of you is.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna move the conversation just a tiny bit. I am reading Brené Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection right now. And it is such a good book. I've never actually put my nose in it, but she says something here that, on page like 2, it was clear from the data that we cannot give our children what we don't have. Where we are in our journey of living and loving with our whole hearts is a much stronger indicator of parenting success than anything we can learn from how-to books. So I'm going to translate that into anything else that we do in our life, even a job, even dancing, even being a professional dancer or an artist. Like if we don't discover every single bit of ourselves, we're not able to give. Like what we don't have, we can't give. And the problem is that it is being asked so much more than we're actually giving the answers. Like if you look at what directors or people actually really want from them at any given point, they're not filling that cup up. They're not filling up their souls. And that's where all of these disorders come from, because it just doesn't align. And therefore, like there needs to be an outlet, right? Like there's the numbing, the drugs, the disorders. If you look at the need to be perfect, that's a disorder.
Yes.
People pleasing. It's a serious thing that trickles down in every single part of your life.
Yep.
And it is so prevalent in ballet and dance in the professional world that unless we're getting out of this, unless you start today with looking at your life from a different perspective, it's not going to change.
No, and I fell into many of those categories. Many.
I want to, she also says something, in order to live a fulfilled life, there are do's and don'ts. Like she uses wholeheartedness, I'm using fulfilled. Okay, so the do's are worthiness, rest, play, trust, faith, intuition, hope, authenticity, love, belonging, joy, gratitude, and creativity. And I'm like, oh wow, there's really not one word on that do list that was actually in my life. And then I looked at the don't list, and it was like perfection, numbing, certainty, exhaustion, self-sufficiency, being cool, fitting in, judgment, and scarcity.
Oh my gosh.
And that was all of this. That was me.
Oh,
That was me
every single one of those ones you just said.
as a dancer in my entire career.
Yes.
I was like, oh my gosh, no wonder I didn't get anywhere, because I was just living on the surface, trying to put my nose above the water to be able to breathe.
Yes, me too.
And that's the arts for me in a nutshell. These 10 words, 7, whatever there are, these are the arts. Describing everything around it and in it and with it.
Yes. Which is why I've had to just make the decision
right,
that it wasn't in alignment with me anymore. Yeah.
And that's where everybody had this discussion yesterday on Clubhouse, in and around what does it actually look like when everybody's going to go back into the normality of days, prepping for premieres, for shows, the 12-hour days. How is that going to fit into that newfound freedom that so many artists have now experienced? And so many of them are so scared of going back to this kind of living again because it was so exhausting. And you cannot unsee something that you experience. Like, you can do anything and everything possible. Not being true to yourself in that point will end up in more illness, more exhaustion, more broken relationships, and you will find yourself so unworthy and so exhausted of yourself and of your life that it will bring you to, well, that you have to make a decision, basically. Like we say, the 2x4 is going to be thicker and thicker and thicker, and it will hit you over the head more often than you actually think you're capable of taking anymore, until you really change something.
Yeah.
I was like, did I
don't know what else to say.
It sounds so easy though, right?
From a dance only perspective, I just overall would have been able to handle the day-to-day and the ins and outs of the industry better had I worked a little bit more on myself, had I had more self-love. My journey is my journey, and so I don't wish to go back in time and change anything, but for anybody in a younger stage than I'm at, it makes everything, I'm rambling because I have a lot of thoughts about this. Things that I exerted energy on, I wouldn't now, in a more peaceful state of mind. So I wouldn't dwell and stress in the way that I did had I grown. And I definitely would have had my eyes open to more opportunities or ways to advance myself in other ways as well.
So that, I love that so much. And perhaps we can finish tying the bow here.
Yeah.
You said you would have been so much more open to see opportunities, right? Yeah. And with that comes financial gain. Yeah. Like if we're not open to see opportunities, we are going to be stuck in the rut and where nothing is going to change really. Yeah. And when we're talking about your business, I am saying that your business is yourself. Like as a dancer, you're your own business. You have to upkeep, progress, whatever it really, reinvent, move with the times. That is that's your business, and you're the CEO. So with that, you also should be able to look for more opportunities and not put yourself into a box that you can't get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your personal growth, your ability to look and be open for more opportunities is very closely tied to your ability to earn more money. And again, it is possible to earn money in the arts. All you have to do is switch your narrative in your head, your story, your history, your beliefs, whatever that is. Or even start with asking the question, what would it look like? But what if I could actually? What could I do? All of these questions are much more open-ended and leave room for being creative. And with that, you will see the opportunities. But you have to be first willing to grow. Yeah. And it is imperative. So there is something we say about the midlife crisis or the midlife awakening, and for everybody else, for everyone, it's different. So for me, it started when I was in my mid-30s and I didn't listen. I didn't listen. I didn't take the action that I could be taken. And I found myself in quite a few months, not even 6, 7, in regret, like deep, hurting, knife cutting regret, feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah.
And because if I would have known what I know today, and I said this before, I could have been the dancer, the prima ballerina that I really wanted to be. And I was the only one in my way. And I had to, realizing that was one of the hardest things that really I have ever had to really do. And where am I going? I don't wish upon anybody the regret. And you don't have to be in your 30s or 40s to wait until you start developing yourself or to look at what you want out of life or who you want to be. You can do that at any given stage in your life. And the earlier, if I may say, as a 47-year-old, the better. Because it's just all working for you. And it's not a guarantee that you won't fail. Actually, failure is a guaranteed. That we can both attest to. And you know what? Embrace it, because it is the most important thing in your life. It will keep you on your toes. It will move you forward. It will keep you humble. It is what makes you human.
Yeah.
So investing in yourself, growing yourself, is not only done by putting on your point shoes yet again for the 500 times during the day and nurture your blisters. It is also done by so many other things, like reading, being in nature, having conversations with yourself, scheduling time to just think. There are so many aspects that you can do to grow.
Yeah, I agree. You wrapped that up beautifully.
Did I?
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know. Yeah, I think that's a wrap.
Yeah.
I feel like
I do have one more thing.
yes.
Because I like the action.
Yes. Yeah.
Questions at the end.
Thank you.
So
do it.
To each his own. There is no, because take it from a recovering perfectionist, there is no how to, it has to look a certain way to do this, but discover what feels good for you to start. So do you like to read? Is it reading? Could you look into personal development books or find somebody on YouTube that you resonate with? They most likely have a book, just like Brené Brown. I found her first on YouTube, and she's also an author. Are you an Audible person? Would you enjoy watching them on YouTube? Do you like nature? Would that ground you to have more time in nature? Whatever it is, isn't wrong. So just find something this week that feels good for you, that could be self-care for you, and just start one step into this journey of discovering more about you. And when you turn the mirror on yourself and you take a look at yourself, at first it might feel uncomfortable and there might be things that you don't want to look at for yourself, but it becomes a habit like anything else. So just in the beginning, find what feels good for you. So reflect on that this week.
Thank you for.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no. Okay, guys, thank you so much for listening. We are going to be back next week, and I would love at this point if you could give us a 5-star rating, if you could write a quick review and share this episode with a friend who really needs to hear this. That would mean truly the world to us, because Christy and I sitting here in front of our computers chatting, and we have no idea what kind of an impact we have. And if you could share just your biggest takeaway, that would fill our cup as well. All right, guys, till next week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.